Around 2600 BCE, Mohenjo-Daro was a metropolis of the Bronze Age, supporting a population of tens of thousands at a time when most of the world lived in small, scattered camps. The city was laid out on a meticulous grid. Every baked brick was manufactured to a strict mathematical ratio, creating wide, perfectly straight avenues and highly organized housing blocks. Looking at these excavated brick foundations and narrow alleyways, we see the remnants of a sophisticated underground sanitation system. They built covered public drains and private wells that functioned centuries before the rise of Rome. Yet, by 1800 BCE, these thriving streets were empty. The civilization vanished. Archaeologists found no mass graves. There are no thick layers of ash to suggest the buildings burned, and no scattered weaponry to indicate a devastating siege. The investigation focuses on a specific haunting detail. A massive, highly organized society simply packed up and walked away, in total silence.
For decades, the dominant explanation came from the early archaeologist Mortimer Wheeler. He argued that nomadic raiders from the northern steppes swept in and slaughtered the inhabitants. Wheeler based this theory on groups of skeletons found sprawling awkwardly across brick staircases and scattered in the streets. But close forensic analysis of these exact skeletons revealed they date to completely different time periods, and none show trauma from swords or arrows. The definitive proof arrived in 2019, when geneticists managed to sequence ancient DNA from a skeleton buried in a Harappan cemetery at Rocky Gari. The lab sequencing showed zero traces of steppe pastoralist ancestry during the peak of the Indus Valley Civilization. The violent invasion narrative was a myth. Whatever emptied Mohenjo-Daro was not a human enemy. Investigators turned to the earth itself, looking for natural disasters like devastating tectonic shifts and massive floods.
Excavations at Mohenjo-Daro reveal thick layers of silty clay mixed with collapsed building materials, proving the city was repeatedly buried by rushing water. This diagram illustrates the scale of the inundation. Deep silt deposits have been recorded as high as 80 feet above the modern ground level. This led to the tectonic damming theory. Earthquakes in the region likely pushed up natural blockages along the Indus River, turning the area surrounding Mohenjo-Daro into a prolonged, stagnant lake. It's a compelling explanation for this specific site. However, Harappan settlements situated far outside the Indus floodplain were also abandoned at the exact same time. A localized earthquake explains the flooding of one city, but it cannot explain the simultaneous collapse of a civilization spread across thousands of miles. The true killer required a global reach. The answer to a subcontinent-wide collapse required looking beneath the ocean floor. Scientists extracted deep-sea sediment cores from the Arabian Sea and analyzed isotopic data from stalagmites in regional caves. The data exposed a massive, creeping shift in global atmospheric patterns. This map tracks the mechanism of their decline. The warming of the tropical Pacific Ocean triggered an El Niño-like state. This caused the life-giving summer monsoons to weaken, shrinking and shifting eastward away from the Indus Valley. Without regular monsoon rains, crucial water systems, including the mighty Ghaggar-Hakra River, slowly receded and dried up entirely. The urban centers were slowly starved of water, public infrastructure decayed, and entryways to civic monuments like the Great Bath were blocked off with brick. Looking at these cramped, labyrinthine brick ruins, we see the city's final days. Grand courtyards were subdivided by flimsy partitions, and wide roads were encroached upon by shoddy construction as the metropolis devolved into a slum. Mohenjo-Daro did not suffer a quick death. It was methodically starved out by an unforgiving shift in the atmosphere. But the population of Mohenjo-Daro didn't actually die off. They packed up their belongings and moved. Archaeological surveys track a massive demographic migration. As the western rivers dried, populations shifted eastward into the Ganges Basin and southward toward Gujarat, chasing the rain. As you can see in this aerial view of a barren excavation mound surrounded by active fields, the inhabitants engaged in deliberate de-urbanization. They abandoned their failing megacities for scattered, isolated farming villages. Survival required giving up the complex systems of city life. The uniform written script and standardized stone weights once used for intercity trade were discarded as central authority collapsed. To survive the environmental collapse, the Harappans traded the grandeur of the city for the resilience of the farm. The migration scattered the population, meaning the people of the Indus Valley dissolved directly into the soil and communities of modern South Asia. Genetic mapping shows that the ancient Harappan genome remains the primary ancestral route for the vast majority of Indians living today. The cities vanished, but the culture endured. Folk traditions, from the specific layout of central village courtyards to the widespread reverence for the people tree, map directly back to Harappan practices. While official urban weights were lost, the mathematical logic of the Harappans endured in local markets. They utilized a base 16 ratio that remained deeply embedded in regional trade, eventually forming the structural foundation for the historic Indian currency system. The civilization wasn't destroyed, its people adapted to a harsher world, and the ghosts of Mohenjo-Daro are still walking among us today.